Welcome to your Astrocast for the week of August 3rd through August 9th, where we are going to do some wheel work. We're going to look at the astro forecast slides, and I'm going to give you at the end a golden ticket to the inner work that will help you specifically to stay on your higher path, to render your highest reality, and to be fully you and create a life that proves it. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at the mantra of the week and a little bit of an overview of the week. It's going to be potent and powerful. We're going to try to knock this out in about 30 minutes. All right, I am away from home. I'm away from my studio camera and microphone and all that while I'm on retreat in some beautiful nature and some stillness. So we're going to do the best with what we got. So here we are. So our mantra this week is your worth is real. Let it be seen. And we're really going to get into some nuts and bolts, practical ways to really comprehend this and to live it. Your worth is real. Your worth is real. Let it be seen. You want to really create the reality that's for you right now, right? Right, which is probably your ideal reality. And so we're going to get into how from your worth that is real, you'll be able to render the reality that you want to see made real. Okay, it's Leo season. We continue in that season where we are making our life up the way we want it. And this is a real inner game. So we're going to do a lot of inner work so that we can render what we want to see out there, right? So now as we dip into the Astrocast for the week, we're going to be looking at the patterns, the cycles, what's going on in nature out there to help us understand what's happening in here, right? Because we're connected to everything. So this is coming from the lens that we are one. And as we feel what's out there, we can help understand what's in here. And then we can look at differentiated view or a unique view for each one of us by going to our chart to see what's going on for ourselves, right? And with this work that we do, you know, if you know me, that the lens we're coming from is this. We were all born this soul, spirit in a body or throughout our body, however you want to look at that. And with the unique bells and whistles that could be our owner's manual, maybe if we're using human design, or our destiny map, which might be our birth chart, looking at the states of being to go from like ego, shadow into our gifts and into our city or like most enlightened state we can attain. Maybe looking at more of a contemplative Gene Keys approach, right? Any of those tools are welcome here, and I'll bring them in, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. That's our lens. So let's get to it. And as a person who was born without a family, born without a name, born into an incubator, I've always asked, as soon as I could speak, who am I? What is my purpose here? And get me out of this box so that I can live the life that I'm here to live. So purpose and identity have always been questioned for me. And as an elementary school teacher, assistant principal, curriculum director, and human design reader, Gene Keys guide, and spiritual coach and solarpreneur mentor, whether you're looking at creating your highest destiny on a personal level with your work or in your love life, all of those paths are welcome here. And we're going to try to bring this down to a practical level, remembering that your life is your life. You're the expert of your life. So I would invite you to open to your soul's curriculum, your soul's journey map for your highest destiny, right? And so when we're looking at all of these pieces, when we're looking at all the houses and the themes that are there, when we're looking at all of the zodiacal archetypes, what's there, and the planetary archetypes, what's there, all of these show up on a lower level frequency, depending on if we're coming from ego or a more enlightened state. So the way you show up is going to be indicative of the reality that you're rendering to you. So let's dive in and break it down. All right. So we're starting this week in Aries. We move through Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. So it might be helpful for you then to go into your chart, make sure in the Astro Matrix app or whatever app you're looking at, you are toggled to the transit view, because then what you can do is look for the moon and you will see it starting in Aries. You'll see it starting in Aries. So you might want to look right now. You could even pause and look at what house is Aries in for me. For me, I know it's my 10th house. So my career and higher calling and my contributions are going to be part of my focus for this week. All right. Another thing to think about, though, is just Aries in itself. Aries rules the first house. So you could look at the themes with the house it rules in your chart. So mine being 10th, for example, but also look at Aries being a first house ruler in general for everyone, which is about our identity, so who we're evolving into becoming right now, as well as our new chapter. So it's the beginning of a chapter in house 1. So what chapter are you moving into in your life, right? What is here for you right now? So those are some things we're looking at. So we're looking at the courage that we need. Let courage lead before you're ready. So I want to look at that word courage. And as an elementary school teacher, one of the what I love to do is look at the root words, because they really hold a lot of power. We've made up all of the words. I love going into a dictionary, and I'm very conscientious and conscious about which dictionaries I use, because those words are owned and created by different entities, by different groups. And so I know the ones that I use. If you have questions about that, reach out. Courage. If we look at the root word and the suffix, which is the ending of the word, the letters attached to it, we've got cur, and the root word in that, I believe it's Latin, but I don't remember, it's heart. And then age at the end is about our state. So this is about being in a heart state. So what's going on that's in your heart, that's pulling you, that's trying to lead you down your highest path? That is the energy we start the week with. Let courage, or your heart state, lead before you're even ready, before your logic has a moment to try to derail you. So that's kind of how we're entering in the week. You also know that with this work, we talk about our hero's journey, and our destiny map can help us to learn that. And then we might think of it as we're evolving right now, especially since we have in Aries at the beginning of the year, we have Saturn and we have Neptune there. We've had Saturn and Neptune there since the beginning of 26, helping us to know that it's a time of dissolving our dreams into reality. Saturn wants us to be a devotee, we want to be disciplined, meaning we want to be a disciple. We want to follow our path and not any path that has been artificially placed or manufactured into our life, like programming conditioning. So that's kind of our story as we're looking at the big picture of this, right? All right, as we go into our week, I didn't have a Chiron magnet, so I'm just using a beautiful ladybug. Our ladybug is going to be Chiron. Chiron is just going to be going into Taurus. If you look, it is at 0 degrees. It's going to be retrograding. So what you might want to do is go in your chart in the transit and look at Chiron, which looks like a K with a little circle on the bottom, right? Where is that in your chart? Taurus is where that is, the beginning of Taurus, because it might help you understand the themes of what might be going on there. Chiron is in retrograde, meaning we're going to be maybe reviewing, we are going to be maybe revising, retrofitting, recycling, reusing, all the re's. If we went back in down kind of memory lane, or all the things you've created in your life, what wants to come forward that's real, that's true? What wants to be let go of, right? Because it's a time, we learned from that last week, to let go of what needs to go. Okay? So Chiron is stationing retrograde in Taurus, and our old wound is asking for a witness, right? Like, not so that we go deep into the weeds of the story and stay there, but so that we can kind of take the gold nuggets that want to come to the top, right? If we turn inward, we can tend to our worth, right? And when we understand our worth, our value, that can help us with our worthiness, right? And so something that I wanted to talk to us about that, because it's in Taurus. Taurus is the house, it's ruled by Venus. We have Venus coming up later in the week as well. And something that is really important when it comes to our values, meaning Chiron is in Taurus. So we're going through a moment of healing old wounds. So tapping into our medicine and magic this week around our values, but then also what we value and hold sacred. Those are the things that are pulling us. So if we think about, we're going around in the loop-de-loop, we're going to jump to the next level in this next chapter that we're iterating or innovating. And we want to stay, we want to stay tight to our values, yet holding the wheel loose enough that we're kind of letting our soul or our spirit kind of take the wheel and stay as we corner, like we're on rails and not derailing from our highest path, right? Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about values. Yes, it's our core values, right? So whatever those are to you, I know for me, it's like authenticity, integrity, devotion, love, service, alignments, and things like this. But I want to dip into a little bit different note about values. Value is also used in a different way as a noun to describe our specifications or our differentiations. Like, for example, every color, like look at all these little differentiated colors here. Or if you work with your brand palette, I could show you no, I'm not going to take the time because I'm trying to keep this under 30. If you would like to do an event where we look at all of the color values in our branding to make sure that they really are indicative of and an expression of our authentic self, our values, our core mission, and all of those pieces, our purpose as they relate to the zodiac, let me know, because that's wonderful. I know I do that with my branding. I really want to hone the frequencies and I love it. Anyhow, hex values are the very specified different colors. So there are tons of colors of, let's say red or orange, for example, right? Tons of colors of blue, hues of blue. But when we really differentiate by choosing the exact hex code number, that's a value, right? Or if you think of like a spreadsheet with all kinds of specs, maybe you're designing a home or something, and there's specific value or inputs around some colors or some textures or some different types of metals or whatever, right? All those are values. They're data points. They're specified pieces of information that communicate a thing. Well, we are just an assembly of tons and tons and tons of values, right? So your values are indicative of the little tiny bits of information that make you who you are. So maybe you're a neurospicy person, for example, and you have very creative thinking. That's one of your values. Someone else has very, let's say, linear thinking. Maybe someone else has very multidimensional thinking. Someone might be intuitive, right? Someone might happen to be tall. That's just part of the model, the make and model of the vehicle that they were given, right? Someone might be they might be a highly sensitive soul. They might be very empathic. Someone else might be very analytical. Someone might have a sense of humor. Right? So all these little bits that make us who we are, and they are probably things that that got dimmed, that got shut down, that got held back. Several of us have actually experienced some kind of storyline in our life where we felt that our spirit got crushed. So we want to go from spirit feeling crushed, right, to spirit feeling really on purpose, really alive, right? All of the bits of you, they want to come out and they want to be seen. And so this is what I'm talking about as well, not just your values and your core values and your meta values, and all the little micro values that you have. But I'm talking about that deal like with your moral compass and things, but all bits and pieces that make you who you are. Those pieces of your puzzle, your inner puzzle, will help you to render the outer puzzle when you're attuned to them, when you are radiating that outward, right? When you're being those unique frequencies, when you are more frequently being all those aspects of yourself, then you're going to be a higher frequency of them. And then you'll be rendering what you're here to render in your life. All right. So now as we move forward, we're going to slide into Taurus. So again, some of those same things about value, right? Let steadiness shape your sense of worth. So if you can stay steady when it feels like maybe a storm is brewing out here, or it might be chaotic, or last week we even talked about things feeling like you're out of sorts because things are shifting, right? Stay steady in your center, right? Stay in equanimity, because then as the emotional currents are going, the mentality, the mental is moving, all of those bits, we can stay steadfast in I'm long gaming, right? I'm long gaming. I'm here to live my highest destiny. I'm trusting my path. I'm going to stay steady on the path. I'm going to equalize my nervous system so that I don't go off rail, right? I'm going to hold to my values. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to find that supportive community that helps me stay in that. I'm going to stay in higher frequency of all the bits that are me. So for example, if these are all the bits that are us, right? We all have some Scorpio. We all have some Leo. We all have some Cancer. We all have all of the bits and pieces somewhere in our makeup of our vehicle, right? Well, all of these zodiacal archetypes show like maybe shyness versus empathy. Those might be different ways of looking at that on a scale of consciousness. Like daydreamy to the point of not following through on anything, and we just stay a puddle, or a dreamy mirage. Or we stay devoted and do what we need to do to turn the dreams into reality, right? So with every zodiacal archetypal spectrum, we can look at the lows and the highs, the ego up to the more enlightened states. So screenshot if you want. We could break down here, or you could look up the Map of Consciousness by David Hawkins, and you could look at some lower frequencies we might find ourselves in with emotions or mentality, and then some higher frequencies, and it could help us. So if we find ourselves being very emotional during the week, we could come find the emotion we're feeling, and then we could ponder, well, are there any emotions on the rung just above that? So I could work through the emotion. Then could I find another that might resonate? That's another way of feeling into that emotion a little higher, then another little higher, a little higher. And then we might be able to work our way through our woundedness to come up to our worthiness. Just some ideas. Or we could tap in later. I'll tell you some places we can go in our human design. We already talked about our storyline of our destiny, or we could look at some other points in our gene keys as well. All right. So, but back to what's happening this week. We have that Taurus energy happening for a couple of the days midway. And then we tap in even more to those Taurus values, Venus values on Wednesday and Thursday. We have the last quarter moon as our peak moon phase in Taurus at 13 degrees. So we could also look at anything around 0 degrees Taurus, 13, that first half of Taurus or so. Keep releasing what your worth outgrew. Keep only what still feels like you value, right? So what is the time to outgrow? As you are working on rendering your dreams into your reality, I think one of the most important things we can do every day, and it probably could happen every minute of the day, is just noticing all of the thoughts. Oh, I can't do that. Or, oh, do I really believe that can happen? Or, if that happened, then I'd have to do that. All of those are beliefs. All of those are thought forms and beliefs that are there. And so just working on pulverizing them, vanishing them. Part of magic is, yes, bringing things into fruition and manifesting out of thin air, but it's also helping things disappear. Like poof, no, poof, no. One of my dear friends says, I rebuke you, right? So like, no, whatever that is, eh, whatever, to just like put the kibosh on it, right? So like just the yeses and the nos, right? Soul, yes, soul, no. Soul, yes, soul, no. Please more, thank you, no, thank you, right? Not only to all of the things that we're met with in our game of life, I've got my intentions grounded and like things are coming forward as possibilities, and I can say yes, no, yes, yes, no, thank you. Also, though, the chatter in our mind, we can say, no, no, you're not real. Yes, no. So we can work on the inside as well. All right, and then we have, and also something to think about with the last quarter moon too. We had that full moon in Aquarius, and now we're building toward um, what came into fruition? If we look back in the last couple weeks, we built towards something really coming into fruition in our lives. And now we're going to be taking the pieces that fit and don't fit as we move into what will next be our new moon, where we'll have some new intentions around what we created. But right now, we're just a quarter of the way through that cycle in our last quarter moon. All right, so on August 6th, midweek, Venus enters Libra. So you could also go into your chart and you could look at, where is Venus for me in my chart? What house is Venus going into Libra for you? It might give you some themes to notice. Where are you agreeing to things before they even feel like a choice? Like, what if you value a person so much or an idea so much? Now, remember, we are letting our courage, our heart lead before we get too logical, potentially. This is your life, you decide. But are we saying yes without going back to our values, our mission? So I'm not talking about getting in our head here, but when important questions that could keep us on the rails or potentially derail a little, let's go back to, what's at the center of my wheel? What's at the center? What's at the center? What's at the center of my toroidal field, right? My mission, my why, my purpose. If new things have come on the plate as we're rendering our highest reality in our dreams and our soul mission, it might change. Has the mission changed? Has the calling changed? Has the purpose changed? And now it's time to have some talks to do some updating about what we're rendering, or are distractions coming onto the path? What's happening there, right? So we might just want to say yes, yes to the things, but it might be wise to just ask ourselves, because of Libra, where we could do people pleasing, we could just like, oh, let the aesthetics and the beauty guide the moment, but we might derail a little. Instead, we can ask ourselves, am I bending? Am I agreeing? Am I letting myself be with the choices before I actually make them? Okay. And then we move into Gemini for a couple of days. Trust the pull of what your intuition already knows. So if you've been asking for things in your life and things have been coming on and you're getting a little like nudge, oh, go here. Oh, go there. Oh, read this, look up that. Oh, here's this sign over here getting getting your attention, right? Some of those things might be happening, might be full of a lot of ideas. We want to make sure we're in equanimity and we're centered, right? As we go through the end of the week, we end up on August 9th having Mercury entering Leo. Now remember, it's Leo season, so we're being asked to be our shiny self. We're being asked to be the lead character and not get derailed in our life. We might be joining up with others who are also the lead character in their lives. So how do our lives integrate? How do we support each other's highest path and highest outcomes as we are each the lead characters in our own lives, participating with others, being the lead characters in their lives, while we're all raising our consciousness together as we're living this like heaven on earth, seeing each other wearing our halos, right? So going further with that Leo season, we could look at Leo, find Leo in our chart. It looks like kind of a lion's tail. And we can look at who is joining there. Mercury, Mercury, Mercury. Oh my goodness, where are you, Mercury? Oh yeah, right here. So if you have Mercury in your Leo, what house is that for you, right? And Mercury kind of looks like a circle with, it's kind of like a little person and it's got the little antennas, right? Kind of remind us about communication, incoming, outgoing, receptivity, and ideas coming in. All right. Your voice wants to be seen. Speak your radiance without any apology, being impeccable with your words, speaking from a place of your highest rendering. Some gold tickets. If you want to be staying like you're cornering, like you're staying on the rails, up leveling to the next experience in your game of life as you are living your highest reality, your highest purpose, staying on your highest path. I think the gold tickets to admission are staying in your heart state, tuning into your values and your differentiations, your personal pieces of your values that make up who you are. And you are the shiny object, honey. So when you're wanting a little light shining on your path, remember who you are. This is a week about remembering as well. Remembering the soul dreams you've had throughout your life and how you're probably rendering opportunities to heal them, to experience yourself in fullness, actually having the thing this time that you wanted and didn't get to have, right? Remember, as we said all of those things in the forecast, that this is from last week. You could go back to look at last week's if you want a little more about this. We're continuing to pierce time, meaning we're remembering as we're trajectorying through our highest destiny, which seems like we're moving forward in time, but future and past really don't exist. What does is the present moment. So if we think of it instead as we're attracting to us as we stay solid in our present moment, there's some things that are happening. Remember that we're being asked to become new as our lunar shifts moved into the Leo and Aquarius axis. We've got our dates here for that. We've got that going on till the middle of 28. Go back to last week if you want to hear about that. Review what you're building because we have Saturn also in retrograde in Aries, the place in our chart that is around the theme of our new identity we're becoming in our new chapter. Go back to last week if you want to listen to that and a little more about this is your stage to shine. So remember, these are 3 other timelines that we're experiencing while we're experiencing the timeline that I'm talking about. Ooh, we're almost at 30 minutes. Here we go, rounding this out and finishing it up. If you want to go into your chart, you could look at what's happening in Taurus because Chiron is a heavy hitter in our story this week. You could see Chiron is right here, the K with a 0. What do you have going on? It's my moon and my north node. So I am on point for my destiny. Yep, on point for my destiny and my moon, my steadfastness, my emotional fabric, what makes me feel like I am sustained in all of the ways. So I'm super on point, being really proactive, staying in my center, my values, so that I can stay holding my golden ticket this week. I hope you can too. You might want to go into your Venus gate. Mine is 64. So mine is connecting the heart or the my head, my crown, and my ajna. So I'm able to, it's part of my channel of realization. So I'm here to have that. So anyone who's needing epiphanies or clarity on ideas that can help you just have completely new realizations, big light shed on your path, spiritual awakening, holla, because that's part of, that's part of the value I hold. That's part of the worth I hold. I'm able to do that for people. I want to know more about what you're able to do through your Venus gate. You can also then go further into the gene keys and you can look at the shadow frequency, the gift frequency, and the more enlightened state, Siddhi frequency, if you'd like to have 3 broken down words that help you remember those states so you can stay in your heart state to be courageous while tapping in to your gifts through your Venus gate. Also, for the conversations of cosmos, we're going to end on this note, unless we have another slide I wanted to show you. No, here we go, folks. All right, with the conversations with the cosmos. So if the cosmos were giving us a message this week, some open-ended, powerful questions. And by the way, every week, whoever does this, they have really been manifesting high rendering in their life and seeing soul dreams come into fruition. Super proud of you. You know who you are. Okay. Live your highest destiny, folks. So here we go to help us to do that. What is possible when you claim your worth? The things that are worth it to you, what matters is integrated here, but also your unique values that make you who you are. If you tap into those, then you're here to live the life that's yours and for you and nobody else, except those people who perhaps your worlds have collided and you're here to create worlds together, right? Where do your relationships need more balance? If you are in relationship with people near and dear to you, your soul tribe, your soul mate, you can look at helping you stay in balance and at the center, have them be at the balance or center in equanimity, holding their worthiness, holding their why. And we're all doing this together as we converge and we join as a soul family, right? And so looking at those balances, that balance where you have relationships where there's less consciousness involved. What words do you use? What actions do you use to show up as your highest version of yourself, rendering in your game of life, while also impacting the others with highest outcomes? So we're looking at how do we navigate and orient through our lives while doing so in a way that also creates the highest impact for everyone involved. And we can look at our precious energy. How do we conserve our energy? How do we be economical with our thoughts? How do we be economical with our words? How do we be economical with our actions so that we use the energy towards those things that really will render our highest dreams into reality and not have us feeling spent and not having the energy? Also, what do you need to say boldly? Ooh, yeah, that's Mercury and Leo. What do you need to say boldly to yourself, to others, or to your highest reality as you build emotional intimacy with it, spiritual intimacy with it, emotional intimacy, but also physical intimacy as it gets closer and closer to you and you render it into reality. So go deeper. If you have this page, it will remind you of the places that you can go into your chart that I already talked about earlier in this episode. All right. I think that's all I have for you all. I want to end with a little bit about that courage and that heart state. We start our week in Aries, where we have that courage to be kind of that spiritual warrior, right? Or spirit in a body who's standing for the life we're here to live. We end in Cancer. And Cancer has like this protective crab shell, but there's lots of tenderness inside. You know, as a Cancer rising, I found that last week, one of the things that I did for some centeredness and some stillness was I took a nap midday. So I stripped down to like my just a bare essentials of me being in my skin. And I slid in, and between the covers, the sheets, they were kind of holding me, right? But inside was me in my softness, the tenderness, right? What's soft? What's tender? What's speaking through your heart, right? What's alive in you? That's perhaps where some of the tenderness is. What's alive? What's alive in you? Right. I'm Teresa Ann, and I really want to encourage you to be your highest self, be the you that's here to serve the world in only a way that you can do, and live your highest destiny by creating a life that proves it.